Midnighters, as they are called, are often programmed in the wee hours of the morning and tend to appeal to a select audience that champion horror and genre films. But no more. With the recent success of films like Hereditary and Mandy, the times indeed are a-changin'. And here at South by Southwest, we wanted to shine a light on this category, and today we have three first-time directors with us. First time, for that this is their first-time directorial feature debut at South by Southwest this week. Please welcome Roxanne Benjamin, who is here with her film Body at Brighton Rock. Abigail Blackmore's film is called Tales from the Lodge, and Polyanna McIntosh, who not only directs but stars in her film Darlin', and who you may recognize as Jadis from The Walking Dead. Thanks for being here. It's already raucous. We have tripled the amount of energy in the room. There's all kinds of friends here. This is going to be fun, and I'm excited to talk to all three of you on your films. Congratulations, because this is your first feature, but also you've done a ton of other types of work, directing, behind the scenes, acting, building sets, selling films. This is an exciting opportunity for me to learn about the business. My first question is, I'm a movie fan, and I love horror, but I don't know if I'm as much in love with horror as some of my friends. And it just seems to me that scary movies are becoming more and more popular. There is just so much of it, and there's so much good genre film out there. Why is that? Where is this demand coming from?
Come on.
I love that he thinks we know the answer to that. That's
well, I have an answer for you, and it is definitive.
You don't have you just put your spectacles up your nose.
I think the way I feel is that people used to be kind of a bit snotty about horror movies, genre movies, and I think that meant that the market kind of forced it into quite a, commercially speaking, quite a cookie cutter way to be safe from the studios and whatnot, and that wasn't everybody's cup of tea. And I feel like now different voices are coming in and they're getting a bit more nuanced, and they're doing what they've always done, which is talking about big issues and showing great characters. And yeah, I just think that there's just more for everybody now.
yeah, different stories are being told, maybe.
And I think the media is accepting them a bit more as having that possibility. I mean, the wider media, you know.
Sure.
There tends to be an upswing in a demand for horror and genre content in times of political and social unease.
Aha.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were waiting for that, weren't you?
No, I didn't know the answer, but it makes total sense.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Thanks for mocking me, though. No, that's actually fascinating. So, as I mentioned earlier, all of you have a very varied background in film and television. I'd like to go to sort of around the room, and at what point did you decide to want to become a feature director? Had it always been the case?
Not for me. I started acting and couldn't get any work, and then I went into improvisation, and then from that I learned more about storytelling, just from being on stage and trying to find an ending, and you go back to the beginning to find the ending, and learning about storytelling, and then realizing that I was telling new stories every night, and those 50 people that witnessed them were the only people that would ever see that story, and going, well, I should really write some of these down. And so that's how I got back into writing. And then it's just one of those things on your life's tick list to do, make a feature film, and that for me was always on my list, my bucket list. So I can't believe it's actually happened. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life now.
You've peaked.
Yeah, it's quite scary when I think about it. It's completely different to making short films, though. Absolutely, the crew get bigger, and the days get longer, and there are more of them.
I have a question about that. I'd love to hear about the rest of the two of you as far as you win.
When I graduated from drama school, I went and started directing and producing theatre in London. And then when I came to LA, that's what I did first here as well. And then it was a way for me to, I found when I first directed my first play and produced it, that it just absolutely made so much sense for me. But I felt for a long time as an actor in the film industry that I don't get to do that. Yeah. I don't get to do that. But after 30 or so movies, as an actor and having had this theatrical experience, I thought, why not? And I was writing. I wrote a feature that an Irish producer was really interested in making, and then I realized that it was just so personal. I wanted to direct it, and so as a proof of concept, I was asked to make do a scene or two, and he gave me $3,000. And I went, so that I can do, you know, I can do 4 days and 24 scenes for that and make the first act, which is what I did. So after that experience, I felt really confident, and I was ready to make that into a feature. It didn't work out because of scheduling, because of Walking Dead. And then this came up, and so I was like, yes, absolutely, I'm ready for sure.
Why did you think it wasn't something you could ever do? Just because as an
Because I have a lot of respect for what it is, you know. I have a huge respect for what it is, and I didn't want to just sort of step from behind the, you know, in front of the camera to behind the camera without the understanding that people had trained for a very long time to do what they were doing. But when you start writing and you start seeing things, you know, for me, it had to be me making the film, you know, and it was the right thing for me. I didn't want to be that little jerk, you know, but now I'm that little jerk. Sorry.
I kind of came more from the business side. I started from development and acquisitions with a genre label to producing, to writing, to directing. And I had never gone to film school. I went to like a theater, did theater and creative writing, and then did a grad degree in more entertainment business, and that more of like the producerial side of things. And my film school was really making a bunch of anthologies with a lot of different directors. And being on set with them, I feel like that's where I kind of learned like the craft of directing. But there was this sort of, I don't know, this sense of mysticism to what the director does or brings to a project that I felt was like a barrier, and like a technical barrier of like, I didn't know specifically camera lenses very well and that kind of thing. And for anyone who does feel like that's kind of what's stopping them, it is kind of one of those sink or, you know, swim things. Like you just have to jump in and try it out and be like, well, that didn't work.
And also
I'm
you
gonna
have
try
the
this
VP
now.
for that as well.
Yeah,
You have that
exactly.
conversation and
Yeah.
You know.
So we have producing and distributing films, we have theater, we have short film, digital content. As in your feature as an independent filmmaker, were you focused primarily on getting the best possible work from the actors and everyone else on set? Or did all of a sudden you feel like you were sort of managing chaos at a first-time or mom-and-pop store? You know what I mean? Like, was it all the artistry that you wanted? Well, no, I'm just saying. Like, I have seen that it's not always about artistry. You're like, there's all of a sudden so many plates as a director that you're spinning.
I wanted it to be all about the relationship between the director and the actors. That's what I imagined it would be. In my fantasy, it would be us rolling around the floor, finding our characters, cooking together, living together.
Coppola style.
Yeah, that would have. And we had no rehearsal. We had no read-through. 2 of the actors turned up on the first day of their. They literally got off the train, got into costume. If the costume didn't fit, didn't matter. We had no other options, and straight into their first shot. So that's why I made sure I cast fantastic actors with, you know, bags of experience, people who just got it, and also because they weren't being paid very much, they were in it because they wanted to do it. So that's good.
Cool. Well, you just checked a box for me because I was actually ask about horror stories on set, but you've checked that box for me.
Sorry, I wasn't really answering your question.
How do you feel about it now, the film?
Well, we haven't screened it yet.
How do you feel about it?
I feel really happy with it.
Good.
Yeah, really, really happy. The actors brought so much to it as well, and I'm so chuffed to see those little nuances in their performances and being able to go, yeah, we're keeping that. That is glorious, a beautiful moment. So yeah, I'm really happy with it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
How about you?
Yeah, sorry.
No, I love it.
This is great.
I'm very happy.
There's always such fascinating things that actors bring to, especially when like you've written something yourself too. Like you have this picture in your head of like what they look like and how they'll say something, where they'll be, and then you see someone do something that's maybe not quite what you expected, but you're like, oh yeah, that's what you're supposed to do there.
Interpretation of that moment.
Yeah, and it just like works perfectly for that moment and makes so much sense. And it's like, why yes, that was what I planned the whole time as your director.
But that's
Carry
why
on.
It's a collaboration, and that's why it's so fun.
Yeah, truly, with everybody. I think for me it was a bit of both, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt very focused with the actors. I felt very focused with every department, to be honest. I felt like I knew exactly what I wanted. I felt like the people there could deliver it. But it's always an independent film, you know. It's just always mad.
Yeah, so much of it is just like hiring the right people and like the family that you're going to be working with, because you're like, basically agreeing to a relationship with a group of people for like months on end. And like, is your crazy going to work with my crazy? And seeing how that works out. And I feel like that's the way a lot of people work with the same people over and over again, because you develop a sort of shorthand.
And can you have a drink with them afterwards?
Right.
That's really important.
It's like
it's foxhole stuff. Indie filmmaking, as you know.
For the uninitiated, people who aren't as familiar with genre, a lot of times they won't notice, myself included, they won't notice some of the homages that are in films, right? And I was curious to know if there was anyone in particular that you were trying to tip your hat to in your film that you want to make sure people kind of notice. Any influences that you're really into?
I never feel like I want specifically for people to notice things before they've seen the film. I think there's plenty in there for me, because mine was a sequel to The Woman. It's a standalone sequel, but The Woman has a great and passionate fan base, and I'm one of those fans of that film, even though I was in it. I just really admire the filmmaking. So there are little moments that I wrote in there that, for Woman fans, they would kind of, it's like a moment when a teacher walks down a middle of a schoolroom, which is an homage piece. There's sort of a pink glove theme going on, which comes a little bit from The Woman. So for me, that's the most obvious answer to that question.
No answer to that question.
Yeah, but I don't have anything that's specifically
related
to a filmmaker.
Later.
Do you almost do it sometimes?
Too close to it.
I was going to say, like almost unconsciously. Does that ever happen?
I'm
Probably.
sure it happens all the time. Totally. You know what happened with me is I realized that I was really Kill Bill influenced on this movie, and it wasn't until I rewatched it after and went,
the yellow jump tracksuit.
Everyone's in a yellow tracksuit.
There were things where people pointed out later that you're like, oh, wow, the whole time, and I never noticed.
Someone pitched me a script once to do as an actor where I had to put my hand into somebody's chest and pull his heart out and eat it. And I said, you realize I did that in a movie before? And it wasn't until I told him that he realized it was a direct pull. That's obviously something that's been seen before as well, but that was really bizarre. And he just was completely unconscious about it and went, oh, shit, you're right, you have done that before.
Also, how did you get past that thing there?
It's The Woman, man. She's really tough.
Oh, yeah, no, you did it.
Yeah.
The Woman, obviously.
She's got those nails and everything.
Yeah, she's cool.
You just get right in the middle of the breastplate and you just,
boom,
like that monkey on that thing with the butt. You know the one?
Like Kill Bill.
Yeah, that's exactly
the
how you do it.
monkey who sticks his little hand up. You guys, you got to get on those.
Kill Bill.
No, it's just a stupid internet meme thing.
Sorry.
He knows what I mean.
It's fine.
He's been watching it for days.
Just do your thing. It's fine. I'm not here. Women in film. I'm gonna go there.
You have to.
You did it too. You did it too. Yes,
what do you
I was
mean,
gonna start with
women?
Roxanne just because she gave me the throw up a little bit in her throat face earlier. But I think one of the things that you hit me to was the fact that women, there are plenty of women specifically in genre film. They're just not necessarily the directors or maybe the hero of the film. And can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, just in your own previous experience. I mean, you're buying and selling scary movies, for example. That's really amazing.
There's tons of people who work in genre on the distribution side, the acquisition side. Also, producerial-wise, on VHS, we didn't have any female directors at the time, but we'd actively looked for female directors, but a lot of people are not interested in making extremely low-budget horror movies when they have other things on their plate, or they're not available, or they're doing other things, which is great because it means that they're working. But we had a lot of female producers and writers involved in those things. So I feel like there are a lot of less visible positions that are not really given the spotlight in genre. Genre feels like it focuses very much on the heroine of the film and the director, which is, I guess, true for a lot of different genres of movies. So I feel like there's a lot more women that are involved in genre filmmaking than people probably realize. They're just not positions that are necessarily highlighted as much. But it does seem to be changing more, that there's more women stepping behind the camera. But I feel like, one of the first movies that I loved as a kid was Near Dark. And that's directed by a woman, and that's a genre film. There's vampires.
I've worked with quite a few female horror directors, and there is like like across the industry, I just feel like it's like, where are they? They're right here.
Yeah.
You know, it's the Walking Dead. We had very few female directors in the season before we had Angela Khan come in, and she just found them. They're there. There's a ton of directors, female directors on the show now, and you know, I think there's actually a ton of them.
Are they just less celebrated?
I think they're given less opportunity because it is a boys' world still, you know, and that's just the world we live in. It's not just within the industry. And I think that, you know, the statistics show about how many female filmmakers have films at Sundance and then don't go on to studios and all of that. I mean, we're at a 2% situation, so it's like there isn't, I don't think that it's, like you say, that women are not interested in genre. I think that they just haven't. I mean, man, I worked with a great female director, Melanie Light, in the UK, who did this short called The Herd, and it was epic and brilliant. And there is just less trust in women being in charge in this world that we live in across the board. That's just it. That's the challenge, you know.
Mm-hmm. As we, did you have thoughts on that?
Nope.
Can you just stay and sit on every interview that we do?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
We've got nothing going on.
As we start to maybe celebrate more of these directors who are female, in genre, what do you expect to see as far as some of the changes, or even hope to see, whether it be in the storytelling or in the culture? Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I mentioned this to you prior to the interview, and it was like I have certain expectations of what I'm gonna see in a lot of scary movies when I sit down to watch one. And I was wondering, and I thought it occurred to me one time, I was like, is it because only men are directing the movies that I'm generally sitting down to see? And I wonder if some of my expectations will change as more and more women.
Do you think? Yeah, exactly. Do you expect to see something different when you go and see a film directed by a woman or a genre film directed by a woman? Do you think? What do you think? Turning it around on you now.
My invitation for you to sit in is now taken back. I do. I 100%
well, that's good.
do.
That's exciting.
But I also don't necessarily think it's going to be like, oh, well, that's a woman-directed film and that's a man-directed film. I'm expecting to see just more nuance, as you said earlier, and variety, to just ideas I hadn't seen before. That's really what I mean.
Yeah.
I think as an actor in the genre, what I found working with mostly male directors and mostly male writers up to a certain point was that there would be quite a lot more nuance for the male characters than there would for the female character. And when I would go to those writers and directors and say, hey, what about this, what about that, they would be open and excited and interested and ready to hear it. The fact is, men haven't lived the same experience as we have, obviously, and it is a very male-dominated society. And I think that in my experience, when speaking to those males, they would be, like I say, into it and willing to look at it from a different perspective and take on, you know, add a bit of that nuance. And they would go, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way a lot of the time, you know, because you are very free to live in a very male experience, you know, have a male experience in a very male-dominated world. And the statistics also show that women are more likely to be convinced to go to see a movie that they consider a man's movie than men will be convinced to go and see a movie they consider a female movie. And that's why there's so many more films targeted towards men, not only because of that blindness, but also because women are used to kind of having to go along with what is available to them. The way I see it with more women working in the genre is not that you will see more female type movies, you will just have a broader range of nuance and character, and I think that kind of serves everybody, you know.
Horror audiences too are, like, historically more female than male. So there are more women going to see genre movies than there are men.
That's been my take, just anecdotally, of my friends who are really, really big fans. It's more women than men.
Well, because our lives are more of a horror genre than men. We experience a lot more physical pain, blood, fear.
I was actually going to ask you why horror? Like, of all the genres that you could dive into and master.
It's scary. I've had a kid, and it's terrifying, the thought of giving birth. It really, really is. You know, in the bath going, I can't believe this is going to happen. It's too late now. Oh no, it's really going to happen. I'm really going to have to give birth. Yeah, it's a frightening thing, having a stranger growing inside your body and moving. That's just one aspect that you know is horror. You know, So I think, and the pain and the fear and stuff like that. So I think women are interested in horror. I've always been really fascinated by, well, just horror in general, but special effects, practical effects. And I think I always wanted to be a practical effects artist, but never thought I would do it because that's a boys' thing. You always see boys doing it, they're mates together and they get to do all the fun stuff. And I never went into it, but I think maybe it's just recently we've realised we don't need permission to have a go at this. It is fun. It is so much fun making horror as well.
Well, so we're running out of time, but a little quick lightning round. No, thank you. I'm learning so much. Lightning round. Horror film must-sees, short film, feature length, someone I should be paying attention to.
I'm going to jump in then. There's this movie called Nina Forever, made by Blaine Brothers in the UK, and I haven't seen it in a huge wide release here.
It was here.
And it probably
here,
was
like
here,
4
right?
years
yeah,
ago?
yeah, and it still stands out for me as a great movie.
Oh no,
Great
I'm
horror
so on the
movie.
spot. I don't know.
I think Raw and Revenge were both amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carly Farge's movie and Julia DeCarno.
Yeah, Raw was brilliant. I didn't see Revenge.
Oh,
Yes.
Revenge
No?
is so good.
Okay.
Shaun of the
so
Dead's really
good.
good.
What about Prevenge?
Prevenge. Thank you.
Prevenge.
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 Thank,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
But I just thought of.
Now I have something to do once the
Alice Lowe.
festival's over and something to watch.
That is a fantastic film. Have you not seen it?
No, this
Oh,
is I'm using
We're
this
gonna hold your
very
hand and take you to the
selfishly.
movies.
Yeah, very selfishly. I don't know how you guys can continue to make these films and still not go home scared. I don't know how many films you have to see or make in order to
We do,
not
but
be scared
it's part
after you
of
watch
it,
one.
part of it.
I think there's thinking of the female angle as well. I think there's a sort of release in horror as well. There's a catharsis.
Yeah,
There's a
scream.
There's a
a
violence.
scream.
There's an anger.
Yeah.
There's a rah,
We're getting it
to
out.
it. We're getting it out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's so
you get a
true.
bit scared, but you feel pretty good
What
after.
I love about making, why I like genre specifically, is that it allows people to experience fear and the release of fear in an environment that is not life-threatening. So it is very much like a catharsis, and I think that's what draws people to horror movies, and I think that's what draws them to it as a still communal theatrical experience when other theatrical venues are like dying for other sorts of movies. Like seeing a romantic comedy in a theater is not something that like you all gear up together to go to, but you all like with your friends will gear up to go see a horror movie together because we like to be scared together because we like the relief of not being scared together when it's
Thank
done.
goodness I'm not in that cabin in the woods.
Because we're all going to die, guys.
Yeah.
Yep, we're all going to get cancer. and we're all
sorry,
gonna
we
die.
are going to die. Sorry.
Yeah.
On that note, we are all gonna die, and I have to wrap up. I really have learned a lot, and I've had a lot of fun, and I appreciate all three of you being here. I want to thank Abigail, Polyanna, and Roxanne. Thank you for being here, and gosh, this has been so much fun. All of you out there, make sure to check out their films here at South by Southwest. They're in the Midnighters category. Look that up. Tales from the Lodge, Darlin, and Body at Brighton Rock. Women, ladies, thank you for being here.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
That was fun.